Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be going over every single passive mob in Minecraft. I believe there are 32 in total if we are including the new 1.20 update. We're going to go through all of them real quick, see which ones are the best, which ones are not really there, and which ones are kind of useless. Anyways, they are ordered in alphabetical order, so let's start with the first one. We have the Allay. Now, the Allay was introduced in the 1.19 update, and honestly, I'm going to put it in excellent. Reason being is I know a lot of people are very mixed on it. There are lots of who don't really like the Allay and lots who absolutely love it. For me, in my lazy brain, there's not much use for an Allay. I feel like it's more of an effort to go out and find one and then set it up to where it can do something properly than for me to just do it myself or make a small farm to do it. So ultimately, the Allay is very cool in design, very cool in how it works. I'm not a huge fan of it, but even with that still, I'm still going to put it in excellent just because of its versatility. Next up, we get the axolotl, easily an S tier. There's not much more I need to say about it. It is I don't want to say the best ocean creature, but it's definitely up there. Next up, we have the bat, which is, yeah, kind of useless. I mean, when was the last time you actively thought about a bat in Minecraft? The answer is you have not. And that's all there is to it. Next one up is going to be the camel. This is one of the new mobs being put in 1.20, and maybe it's a little bit of bias just because it's so new, but I'm going to put it in average of the average. I would have put it lower, actually, but because it's still so new, and it's, technically not even fully released, I'm going to put it a little bit higher than I normally would have, simply because it's a new mob. It's giving us new features with a little bit new mechanics. So next up is the cat. Now the cat is specifically different than the ocelot, which is right over here. With that being said, the cat is going to go in the excellent category. Woohoo! The reason being for this is that cats are essentially just dogs, but a little bit different. And now that might seem a little bit obvious, but ocelots have different functionality, and we'll get to that once we're there. But cats, they function very similar to dogs in the sense that you can breed them and tame them with raw fish, I believe. But also, they can bring you treasures whenever you go to sleep. They can bring back things like, I think, like string and meat and probably something else. I just don't really remember. But because they have that added level of functionality, they are going in the excellent category. Bada bing, bada boom, no one can change my mind on that. Next up, we've got the one and only, the OG, the chicken. Ho, best of the best, easily. These things have been the most prevalent mob in the game, I think. Farming-wise, they give you not only a solid source of food, chicken and cooked chicken, but feathers. Feathers are essential in so many things, and I believe chickens are one of the only ways to get feathers, if not the only. At the very least, they're the most easy and versatile way of getting feathers. Anyways, regardless, chickens are going in S tier. Just like the last one, no one can change my mind on that. Alright, we are on the fish, the cod specifically. This is going here. It is indeed a mob. So here's the thing. The presence of physical fish in the world, I think, was a great addition in the 1.13 update, but they added a lot of different fish. The cod specifically, I'm putting in it is indeed a mob category because you can still get food from it, you can still get cod, but they're just kind of bland, It's just a grayish, brownish fish in the water, and they're usually in, schools together, like, big clumps, but that's about all there is to them. Next up, we've got the one and only, the cow. Best of the best. I mean, come on. It is like the chicken, but even better. So cows, I don't think they've had as much functionality for as long as chickens, but for sake of like the grand timeline of Minecraft, they've had excellent functionality for well over a decade. Cows can give you the best source of food in the game, in my opinion, which is steak, because it heals for more hunger points than any other type of meat, as well as leather. Leather doesn't have a ton of uses. I mean, there's leather armor, but most specifically books. Books are where you need leather the most, and where cows come in handy the most. Hence why they're in S tier. Next on the list, we got the donkey. The donkey, it is indeed a mob. It can carry items for you. That's about it. It's not bad. It has a little bit of assistance for the player, but that's about it. That's about it. Next on the list, we have the good old Fox Boy. He is going in the average of the average. He doesn't have much functionality. Like, I'd argue that the mule actually, or sorry, the donkey. I think I said mule last time. Sorry, this is a donkey, not a mule. Mule's here. The fox has probably less functionality than the donkey, but it's so much cuter. I mean, come on, it can hold items in its mouth, and it's like, oh my god, it's amazing. So, you know, you can't really argue with me on that. Next up, we got the frogs. Now, these were released in 1.19, and I mentioned earlier about bias when it comes to new mobs with the, I think I said it was with the LA. I'm not 100% sure. But the frogs, I don't really consider in that category. Now, don't get me wrong, they are cute. And it's very cool that there are 3 types of frogs. So there's a little bit of variation between where you find the frog. It's just their main functionality, which is eating magma cubes. Like, I don't know how the developers came up with that. Don't get me wrong, it's a unique trait, but it's just very weird and not what I would consider a frog would be doing. Next up is the glow squid, and the glow squid is indeed a mob. Yeah, that's about all there is to it. I do like the fact that the glowing sacks that it drops can make things glow, but most of the time that's not really a feature that's not really needed, and most of the time you don't even notice it on signs. Hence why it is indeed a mob. Next up, we've got the horses. Oh yeah, they're going in excellent. Now, some of you might argue, what? Why aren't they going in the best of the best? They're literally the best form of transport in the game. And what I tell you is, have you ever worn an elytra? Come on, you can't honestly argue and tell me that horses are a better form of transport than the elytra. The elytra is kind of a weird form of transportation in the sense that it literally beats out all other forms of transportation. Regardless, the horse, it is an excellent mob. You can have course armor on it, and it can help you traverse terrain very quickly, especially if you have not gone to the end. That's why it isn't excellent, but it is not up there in that, you know, S tier best of the best. Next up is the mushroom, and it is going in the average of the average again. It's got decent functionality where they're similar to cows, which, you know, speaking of cows, I actually forgot to mention you can get milk from them too. So another reason they're in the S tier. But with mushrooms, you can get mushroom soup, as well as shear the mushroom to get a regular cow. One thing I don't think a lot of people know about is if lightning hits a red mushroom cow, it will turn it into a brown mushroom cow. And vice versa, if a brown mushroom cow gets hit by lightning again, so it would have to be struck with lightning twice, it would then turn into a red mushroom cow, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I was just thinking about it, and I just realized that the mushroom cow is literally a cow, but has even more functionality. I'm going to move it here, and it's not going to be best of the best simply because of how rare they are. If you could get them, if they were a lot more accessible, then I would argue they could be here, but it's just like, the odds of you finding a mushroom cow are very, very low in a world. Next up, we have the mule, and it's going here. It's basically a donkey, but I think the word mule sounds even worse than donkey, so it's going here. Anyways, next up we have the ocelot. This one is going in. It is indeed a mob. So the thing with ocelots is that they used to be the same thing as cats. Like you tamed an ocelot to become a cat, but since I think it was 1.14 where they became different mobs, the ocelot doesn't have really that much functionality, and I believe you can still breed them and, you know, enclose them, but there's no like taming. There's no actual perks that an ocelot gives, like specifically an ocelot, not a cat. Hence why it is now, and it is indeed a mob. It is what it is. Next up, we have parrots. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, I love parrots, except they're going in the average of the average. These guys, you know, they are very fun, and they've got a lot of liveliness. I just hate how much they imitate monster noises. The amount of times that I thought a creeper was coming up behind me because of how parrots make noises. Oh my god. Otherwise, these guys would be a whole lot higher. Like, you can have them on your shoulders. That's so cool. But I can't deal with the constant spider and creeper and zombie noises that these guys make. Otherwise, they would be an S tier, or, you know, best of the best, 100%. Next up, we got the pig. Woohoo! Oh my god, the pig. It's going in excellent. Reason why it's not up here with the other ones is simply because these animals offer so much more than the pig. The chickens have chicken, feathers, and eggs, which can be made into, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. Cows offer leather, beef, and milk. Whereas the pig, it literally just offers, pork chops. And that's not, don't get me wrong, a food source is not a bad thing, but when it's the only thing you provide compared to the other ones, you're just not getting very far. Plus, on top of that, pork chops are less good of a food source than beef. I think they might be the same as chicken, so that's just, another argument for why they're a little bit lower than those ones, but still very high up. Next up, we have the pufferfish, which is going in the kind of useless. You could, meme it and say, oh my god, the pufferfish are the best because you can eat them and you'll get like poison 23 and nausea 18.5. But the thing is that they're, other than that, they are kind of useless. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that you can make a water breathing potion with a pufferfish. I know that, don't yell at me in the comments. But how often are you using water breathing potions? I mean, fellas, come on. Let's get real here. They're staying here. Alright, rabbits. Average of the average. They give rabbit hide, which to this day, I honestly don't know what rabbit hide does. I think you can turn into leather somehow. I don't actually know. Regardless, rabbits are very cute. And overall, they're pretty harmless in the game. They're not like parrots, which actively make sounds that annoy the crap out of you. So they're going to stay right here in the average of the average, just because they're kind of cute. And sticking with the theme, salmon, woohoo! They are also going in the average of the average. Why are they higher than cod on the list? Well, for one, usually salmon are a little bit bigger in the water, so if you're ever trying to hunt them, it's a little bit easier to hit them. But also, too, they're a lot more colorful than this grayish brown. I mean, look at that red, green, and blue. Much better color palette than that nasty old boring cod. Next up is sheep. Woo! Yeah, it's going next to the pig. Now you might say, oh, well, it has, more functionality than just food. You're wrong! Well, you're not wrong, but you're wrong, okay? Look, sheep do have more functionality than, pigs, in the sense that you can get mutton and wool out of them. But the thing is that mutton didn't exist in Minecraft for I want to say 6 or 7 years. Sheep would only drop wool, and you could shear them, but who wants to do that? Plus, wool can only really get you so much. Decoration in beds, pretty much. It doesn't have much functionality, versatility, if that makes sense. Next up are the skeleton horses, and they are, they're gonna go on average. I would have put them up with excellent with the regular horses, because these horses are actually better. I'll explain why in a second. But the issue is that they're just near impossible to find. They only spawn in those, skeleton horse traps. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, essentially these guys are actually better than regular horses, because they can go through water. They sink in water, which would normally be a problem for an animal, but skeleton horses do not drown. So you can actually ride a skeleton horse, providing you have a water-breathing potion, across the bottom of an ocean, which is a very surreal experience if you've never tried it before, but one I would recommend doing so if you were interested. Next up is the sniffer. Honestly, I've debated between putting this in kind of useless to best of the best. It's gonna go in best of the best. Why, you might ask? Well, that's an excellent question, viewer, and the reason is, it's a brand new mob, similar to the camel, but it's got so much more uses to it. Well, not necessarily uses, but there's a whole lot more depth within the animal, and that you can find its eggs in suspicious sand. And so I think there's just a whole lot more to it than, what would typically be added with a new mob. So there's that whole discovery process with it, which I think makes it, up into that S tier. Next up, we have the snow golem. Woo! It is going in. It is indeed a mob. These guys were very popular, I'd say. Maybe not popular, but they were used a lot in the early game of Minecraft, but as time has kind of gone on, these guys have found less and less uses. They always will be a great source of snow if you just need pure raw snow. It's dead simple to make a farm with them. But overall, outside of that, there's not much use to them. They kind of have been power crept by Minecraft itself and left behind in the dust. Next up is the squid, and it's going in kind of useless. Squids have been in the game for so long without having, I don't want to say proper functionality, but it's all they drop are ink sacs. Come on. You can infinitely farm black wool with sheep. There's not really a reason to farm squid or get a squid farm. They're kind of big, they're kind of ugly, and there's not much to them other than that. Striders are next. I think these are one of the most unique mobs in the game, similar to the, what are these called? The sniffers. But it is not as cool as the sniffer. I'm going to put it in the average of the average, mainly because they have a very niche functionality, but it's super cool, where they can walk on lava in the nether. I think that's super cool, plus the fact that they can stack on top of each other and theoretically make an infinite stack of them. That's also kind of cool in my opinion. Next up, we have the tadpole, and it's going in indeed a mod. Not mod. There's not much to a tadpole. It's basically just a frog before it becomes a frog. If there was some sort of special game mechanic with tadpoles, I could see it being argued for them to be higher, but there's not really a reason to with how they are at the moment. Next up is tropical fish, and they are going in the excellent tier. So I think they actually have less functionality than the other two fish, but I mean, come on. Have you guys seen those lists where there are like quite literally millions of different variations of a tropical fish? I mean, come on. There's no coral reef without these guys. These guys are amazing. They bring the absolute most life to the ocean out of anything on here. Except for maybe axolotls, but I didn't say that. You didn't hear. Anyways, as we are finishing up on this list, we have our last ocean mob, which is going to be the turtle. And it's going to be going in the average. Similar to sniffers, the turtles have a lot of functionality to them that is just outside of simply breeding and not taming, but, you know, just having a farm of turtles. You can make the turtle helmet with turtles, as well as the whole functionality of them always breeding where they were born themselves is kind of cool. They're always on beaches, and that's just how their AI works. It's honestly pretty cool. But I don't know, after having them in the game for, I think, 4 or 5 years now at this point, they've gotten a little bit stale in my mind, and you guys might differ on that, and honestly, this is the one out of this entire list I'm probably willing to be swayed the most on, hence why it's right in the middle of everything. Next up, we've got the villager, and come on, S tier. I mean, these guys literally break the game with their trades and how you can manipulate them with zombie villagers. Without villages and villagers, this game would be a whole heck of a lot harder to go through. Villagers are the most help a player will have in their entire world by far. And on quite the opposite story, we have the wandering trader. The only reason it's not in the kinda useless mob is for the fact that Minecraft worlds are randomly generated. And with that random generation can come a world where you simply cannot find the biome / terrain that you're looking for to get a specific tree or plant or whatever. But outside of those extremely niche scenarios, this guy is essentially useless. I mean, he gives you stuff like coral and saplings and plants, flowers, stuff like that. None of these things are particularly useful, but in those very few scenarios where they are, he is, you know, a godsend, and nothing less than that. But those very niche scenarios cannot bring him up to a higher tier. This is where he will stay. So with that being said, this is my complete list of all the passive mobs in Minecraft. If you enjoyed, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.